Hey, what's up? It's Nathan here with thebtccourse.com, and in this video, I'm going to explain to you why you should not buy a Bitcoin ETF. So there's a lot of hype about the Spot Bitcoin ETF that's eventually going to happen, if it hasn't already. Now, maybe you're watching this video in the future, and there is a Spot Bitcoin ETF out there. But should you actually buy the ETF? Now, of course, the big pro of buying the ETF is that you can do it in your stock brokerage account, your retirement account, etc. It's the traditional way to do it. There's like a set standard for buying ETFs. So, it's an easy thing for people to wrap their head around and do because, a lot of people hold ETFs in some sort of investing account. And you don't need to go to some crypto exchange that might be doing shady things like FTX. So you don't need to go to crypto and do things. You just do it with the account you're already used to using and buying stuff within. Now with the ETF, people don't need to learn about crypto or Bitcoin. They just buy the ETF like any other ETF they may have purchased before. So they're familiar with that process, and there's no new learning. Like I've been saying, you just do what you've always done. So it's simple. Now, outside of this convenience, all I see is risk and downside to buying a Bitcoin ETF, and I'll, of course, explain what I see as the risk and downside right now. So one of the biggest issues is the counterparty risk. So with the Bitcoin ETF, you're depending upon a third party or multiple third parties to not screw up. So for example, with BlackRock, they're going to be having the Bitcoin stored at Coinbase. So in that case, you have two third parties that could screw something up with your Bitcoin. Now, some of the things that they may do with the Bitcoin is rehypothecation. So in this case, they would use your Bitcoin that you bought from them, and they would take out loans against it so they could buy other assets, which may or may not perform. So maybe they would buy more Bitcoin with those loans, or maybe they'd put those loans into treasury markets or something like that that's a little more safe and secure. But, you can't really control what they might buy with those loans that they take using basically your Bitcoin. Or maybe Bitcoin has a wild swing down and your Bitcoin gets liquidated to cover that loan. So that can happen. And another counterparty risk is lending. So these institutions may lend out your Bitcoin to other businesses that may do something stupid with it and lose it. I.e., this happened quite a lot recently. We had Three Arrows Capital, Voyager, Celsius, BlockFi, Genesis, etc. all made loans to basically each other, and that Bitcoin just vanished off the face of the planet. Bunch of businesses went bankrupt, the entire crypto market came crashing down, and so on. There's also private key mismanagement. So these are the keys that keep your Bitcoin secure. So one of the counterparties could straight up lose access to the Bitcoin, and this has happened with Prime Trust and Fortress Trust, for example. So again, with the Bitcoin ETF, you're trusting these third parties not to do something silly or stupid with your Bitcoin. Now, of course, BlackRock, Fidelity, etc. have been in the ETF game for a long time with trillions of assets under management. So if you want, you can assume there's going to be very little counterparty risk, but it's still there. There's also there's Coinbase or some other institution that's probably going to be holding the Bitcoin. So again, you might have 2 or 3 counterparties that could screw something up for everybody. So it's just something to think about. Now, another risk is government seizure. So if Bitcoin really does become a massive asset or even the global reserve currency and it's all sitting in one place, a government can easily seize it. And they did this with gold in 1933, Executive Order 6102. So this has happened in the past. Now, maybe the government doesn't seize it, but they could add restrictions and other limitations for what you can do with the Bitcoin ETF holdings. Or they could make it hard for BlackRock to do things or give it back to you or anything like that. So you might have to jump through some extra hoops in order to sell your Bitcoin ETF. Now, one of the main things about holding a Bitcoin ETF is that you can't use Bitcoin with it. So maybe you're not worried about the counterparty risk or government seizures, and I'll admit, I don't think that either of those are that likely really. But of course, there is a possibility. And all these risks that I've listed out have happened in the past. But, ultimately, when you buy a Bitcoin ETF, you're getting a claim on Bitcoin's price action. And that's it. You're not participating on the Bitcoin network. You can't send uncensored transactions to anyone, anywhere in the world, 24/7, 365. You're dependent on third parties, them not doing something stupid, them not restricting access to the Bitcoin, and so on. You're dependent on stock market hours, like Bitcoin's 24/7, 365. However, if you have an ETF, those stock markets open 9:30 to 4 and close on weekends, close on government holidays, and so on. So you won't have access to your funds during those times. You can't participate in DeFi. Now, DeFi kind of is a bad word in the Bitcoin world because there's been a lot of scammy DeFi projects. However, there are some legitimate ways to like post your Bitcoin as collateral and take out a stablecoin loan against it at a very low rate, and or ways that you can go ahead and earn a yield on your Bitcoin as well. So there are ways to do it safely and securely in the DeFi world, and more options are coming available as we speak. But if you have the Bitcoin ETF, you're obviously not going to be able to do this type of stuff. You could be censored. So again, your Bitcoin's sitting with some other institution and you could get locked out of your investment or bank account, like this happened in Canada, right? With the whole trucker rally. So I mean, this is a very real threat and possibility. If you have a Bitcoin ETF, you can't simply memorize 12 words to secure your entire wealth so you can escape from your war-torn country or your corrupt politicians. Now, yes, maybe this might not be applicable to you watching this video as you sit safely in the United States, but elsewhere around the world, there might be reasons that you have to pack up and leave immediately. And Bitcoin, the asset, lets you do this. However, Bitcoin ETF, you would not be able to do this. You'd be stuck in that brokerage account somewhere that you would not be able to access. You also can't participate on the Lightning Network, performing peer-to-peer transactions with instantaneous settlement. And there's lots of cool stuff happening with Lightning. There's Mash, which is a really cool tool for websites or cross-border payments with little to no fees using Strike. And I have links to these two items in the description down below if you're interested. Now, I get it. It's scary to self-custody and take control of your Bitcoin. And you can certainly screw it up, and there is no one to call to help you get your Bitcoin back if you do screw something up. But that doesn't mean somebody else can screw it up either. Again, we talked about that third-party risk, the counterparty risk. So it is worth learning about. It's worth trying these new things. And I want to be clear, you don't have to ape in and start sending six-figure transactions on day one. All you need to do, get a hardware wallet, set it up, send $20 worth of Bitcoin to it, see it show up. And then go ahead and wipe that wallet completely clean, like do a factory restore on it. Your Bitcoin is stored on the blockchain. It's not actually stored on that little device. It's stored on the blockchain. And the wallet just lets you sign for that Bitcoin when you go to send it. So then you'd go ahead and restore it with your seed phrase, see your Bitcoin still sitting there, send that $20 somewhere else, sign a transaction, view it on the mempool, watch it arrive at the new location. And you can really do all of that with just $20, just to dip your toe in the water and get some experience with it. It is a well worthwhile education. And then you could also venture into collaborative custody like Unchained or Keys.Casa, which use multisig to help you keep your Bitcoin safe and secure while reducing the likelihood you'll screw something up. And ultimately, the point is you should try to use Bitcoin, not just buy the ETF for the NGU technology, and NGU is number go up technology. Buy Bitcoin for the asset itself, because that's where the real power is. And of course, I have a lot more training on all of this stuff. So if you're interested, please check out the btccourse.com. And hopefully you found this video helpful. And I hope you have a great rest of the day.